Further, according to a recent article in New York Times, the average number of skiable days across the United States decreased by 34 days between 1982 and 2016. And this trend isn't going to slow down. Having been skiing at Taos Ski Valley since 1984, I can say that we are no exception. All right, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Arguello, please.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, and thank you for holding this meeting. I appreciate all your efforts to involve the community. A couple of things. First of all, I want to reiterate what everyone has said, and I'm in agreement with most comments. Second of all, the issue of the fallacies in this proposal in regards to endorsements by entities that have not even heard of this. My concern is that this proposal has not just been made available to us and Taos County, but has been made available around the state to elected officials, to the governor's office, etc., with these fallacies already stated as fact. Now, I would like to see that gets rescinded with the corrections that the individuals and entities that are shown as enthusiastically endorsing them, be pulled and be corrected so that that information is correct out in the general public, not just here in Taos County. And I also agree that the public money should be directed in our community, in our county, to more items that can directly affect our local residents, such as the hospitals, such as public housing, etc. But that is the extent of my comments at this point. Most especially, I want to emphasize is pulling this report back or sending it out again with the revised corrections and the problems and the incorrectness noted, so that this is portrayed out in the general public in the state of New Mexico correctly, and not just being called on the carpet here today, but that it is the correct information is put out there to the general public. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have, I believe there's a Shannon, is it Rumlink? And
yes.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you for having this meeting, Commissioners. I'm with Amigos Bravos. We're a statewide water conservation organization here in Taos. We're based in Taos and have been for 33 years. Our mission is to protect and restore water quality, and we've worked with the Taos Ski Valley for over 20 years, working with them around water quality issues. I just wanted to mention that we do have some concerns around the gondola specifically, and I support a lot of what Jillian Joyce mentioned. We sent a letter to the Ski Valley around the proposal around Kachina Peak, and we requested a meeting and have yet to receive response around that. But our concerns in our letter, which were echoed by our members, included road status and capacity issues, the bias in their master plan survey, which was rather apparent, water runoff concerns, and then forest thinning concerns. I won't go into them in detail, but I just wanted to mention that, and if anyone is interested, they can get in touch with me around those concerns. And so our main question to this group and to the Ski Valley before making a decision on these funds would be how will building the gondola affect water quality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we've got Ariana Kramer.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, everyone who's at this meeting. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I just found out about this last night, and I agree with many of the statements that have been made, so I won't reiterate those, but I did want to just add that I think the community needs to be able to have a discussion about how we would like to spend the ARPA funds that are, once in a generation funds that are coming through the federal government to the state. We have critical needs in our community around housing, around behavioral health. We need a detox center. I mean, there are really important needs that our community has, and I think that if we can use these funds to support our community, we should have a voice in how those funds are spent. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Carlos Miera, please. Mr. Miera, are you wanting to speak? Okay, okay, I don't see Mr. Miera wanting, here. Anyone else? Mr. Adamio?
We have the comment from John MacArthur that came emailed to myself this morning. Mr. Jaramillo, I live in Talpa on the Seque del Monte de Rio Chiquito. Regarding today's special commission meeting, I will not be able to attend the meeting, but would like the following read and entered into the record at the meeting. I've reviewed the proposal about to be presented to the County Commission regarding major infrastructure funding to be applied to a clean energy and recreation project largely benefiting Taos Ski Valley and the increased development of tourism. I strongly advocate for support for recreation toward the south of the valley as well, support for the U.S. Forest Service development of trails, trailheads for Miranda Canyon, including especially the proposed Bear Wallow trailhead about 1 mile outside of Talpa on Highway 518. There's obviously a need for bike, hike, and horse access to U.S. Forest Service lands, and this would be much more likely to be used by locals instead of exclusively by tourists in the Taos Ski Valley. Thank you, John MacArthur.
Okay,
Chair, you have a hand raised, Jana Gunnell.
okay, Ms. Gunnell, please, proceed. Ms. Gunnell, can you unmute and speak?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna call your attention to Carlos Miera's hand is up.
This is just a new version of that.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Miera, I see you now. Go ahead. Good to see you. Mr. Miera, you want to unmute? It looks like you are, but I don't hear you. Still can't hear you, Mr. Miera. I don't know if it will help to jump out and jump back in. I don't know, any suggestions? Mr. Jaramillo?
Yeah, Mr. Miera, you can also call, if you have the agenda in front of you. If not, you could call 1-872-240-3311. That's 872-240-3311. You will need the meeting ID number of 607-505-757. That's 607-505-757.
Thank you, Mr. Jaramillo. And meanwhile, while he calls, it looks like we've got someone else raising their hand, but I don't see the name.
I believe that's Mr. Joaquin Aguayo. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And what is the time that we have to make a comment?
3 minutes, Mr. Aguayo, please.
Buenos días, le dé Dios a todos y a todas. Good morning. I'm in support of most of the comments being made. I've also made maybe a dozen or so questions or comments in the chat, which I hope the commission can formally take that as documentation and see if those can be replied to as well. Verbally, what I can briefly mention is that in such settings, one of the questions I always ask myself, and I hope you as commissioners and public representatives can ask, is who's in the room and who's not in the room. I am not hearing or seeing anybody formally from the Taos Pueblo for which I cannot voice or represent, nor do I hear anybody identifying as a part of any of the domestic water associations, land grants, neighborhood associations, or any of the other individual property owners in the area that will be immediately impacted. With that, I wanted to say that community participation, I'm hoping you all will allow community to define that, because obviously we see how the Taos Ski Valley and other invested interests are defining it. But really having community define what they want their participation to be in this process in terms of the fees that are needed, in terms of the data, in terms of the research, in terms of understanding what the long-term effects are. And I say long-term effects, as some have mentioned, you know, some of our families go back even before documentation through the church was available. The new Ski Valley owner, maybe been here a dozen years, and we know these businesses come and cycle through, and nonprofits cycle through every few years, but the rest of us are going to be stuck here with what the long-term effects are. So I really hope you all allow and assure that the community can define what our participation will be. And I would like to mention that the river here, you know, in Valdez de Arroyo is an endangered river, and I've heard no comments or any studies mentioning that, along with some type of sewage plant upgrade, which on page 14, I would like to be noted, there's two things on there talking about an extension of sewer network project flowing downriver. And I would say this needs to be tabled and permanently postponed until environmental impact studies and the plans for that alluded sewage upgrade plant is completely dealt with, because it will affect not just Valdez, but all the communities all the way down to how this river gets into Mexico. With that, I'll turn it back over to you all, and I really hope that this can be a respectful process and build community and not something that we're going to really regret for generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Miera, are you able to join us now?
Yeah, please. Thank you. I just couldn't quite get that working for some reason. Just want a couple of things. Mr. Norton reached out to myself and Dean Archuleta, who are commissioners on the Revalse and Des Montes Ditch Association back in December. And this was a preliminary meeting to give us a review of what was being proposed. At that time in December, as members of the Rio Hondo Ditch, we thought that it would be good to have another meeting with all the commissioners in January. Unfortunately, Dean and I didn't reschedule that meeting. We kind of got busy, and so without realizing, January came and left. But our intent was to have a meeting, all the commissioners, in January. And we still will propose that we have that meeting with the commissioners so that we can get a better understanding of the proposal. Now, the proposal itself, when it was presented to us, had some had some issues that we had been asking the Ski Valley to address. One, of course, is the watershed protection, and to eliminate or to address the sewer system in the Amazon area. In order to help clean up the Rio Hondo, we felt it was important that that section be tied into the Ski Valley sewage treatment plant to eliminate all these septic systems that are not tied into a system that will guarantee the water quality. So there were some merits to the program that we thought were important to address, and therefore I don't think we need to throw out the whole project, because there are some good aspects to it. I think it just needs to be better fleshed out and discussed further, and we hope we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe next we've got Hank Sachs or Cynthia Patterson. Go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not sure who's going to speak. Hank, are you trying to?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I submitted written comments too, so those will be reflected in the record that you have. But so I wanted to talk about the first of all, the idea that this is a shovel-ready project. It's important to utilize funds that are made available through recent federal initiatives to achieve the maximum benefits to local communities. So the emphasis on that is for projects that are said to be shovel ready. And so that's a term that was popularized under the Obama administration. But it implies that a project is well thought out, that's in an advanced stage of planning, and the development is ready to go very quickly when the spigot for funding is turned on. So there's an attraction to putting large amounts of money into a shovel-ready project if it's well chosen, because it could have immediate impact on employment and on the local economy. But a second and more significant benefit should be that the project produces long-term improvements in the lives of the residents of the area. So when you're going to make these huge government investments in the local economy, you've got to have a lot of thought. You've got to have open dialogue with all the players and parties in the political and economic spheres in order to determine how all the sectors of the population and the environment is going to fare as a result of this funding. Okay, so this proposed plan asks for a total input of about $155 million, which is a public works project that just dwarfs the magnitude of anything this county has ever seen or contemplated, and it does it all in one fell swoop. So even if only a fraction of that goal is attained, the project is certainly going to achieve the objective of injecting capital into the hands of certain sectors of the local economy and towards certain investors interested in local development. But there are huge needs all over the county for many projects that need to be discussed right now in the open before the county commission endorses this set of initiatives or any set of initiatives. The pot of federal money that's coming this way is only going to be offered once, and it has to be apportioned wisely. So introduction of such a large block of funding can greatly distort the economy if it's not considered just judiciously. So the decision to endorse this solitary proposal cannot be taken without two things. One, you got to have advanced disclosure to the public, and two, you got to have opportunity for public discussion and feedback.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. I apologize for
any decision is made by the county commission.
Thank you.
So this thing has only been disclosed for less than a week, only to a small sliver of the public, and only by chance have most of the people that are at this meeting today even heard about it. So I'm asking if the county commission would please withhold decision on endorsement of this proposal and open up a dialogue.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry, Mr. Sachs. I don't like doing that, but we do need to proceed, and I believe we have Cynthia Patterson. Can you please go ahead and unmute? Ms. Patterson, are you having difficulties in unmuting? Okay, please proceed.
I had you muted, so I was really having trouble.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vigil, the other commissioners, and for everyone from the public making the time to be here today. Like everyone else, we found out about it Friday afternoon when we read the agenda for this special meeting. I would recommend that everyone here, if you're not on the county manager's list of announcements of county commission meetings, you get on that list. It is an important email list to be on. I wanted to go a step farther, actually. I've written comments and sent them in, and I've listened to what people have been saying, and it seems to me that we'll listen. I assume the commission will proceed and hear the presentation today, and those of us that can stay will hear it as well. If it doesn't go any farther than the 19 pages of bullet points and photographs, I find it entirely inadequate to even begin to make a judgment on this proposal that is reasonable and well-informed. We can reach conclusions from the bullet points, and I think we have, and they're not positive conclusions at this point as far as the general thrust of this proposal goes. I would suggest that the commission not table this request for the letters of support, but in fact deny them at this point. There is not enough information to act. I think you should request that the group putting this proposal together address the comments that have been made thus far, address the needs of the county as a whole, not just the needs of Taos Ski Valley, and come back at that point with a fully fleshed out presentation that is presented at numerous public meetings around the county for people to respond to. As Hank just said, if we're talking about an excess of $150 million being spent in this county, that requires serious consideration. I also see in this that they are asking that the Taos County be the fiscal agent for this. What is involved in the county handling a project of $150 million? I think that it would really behoove the commission to just deny it at this point and say, when you have a fully fleshed out presentation with some detail, then we will reconsider. Thank you.
Madam Chair, time has expired.
Okay, and Mr. Hadamia, I think that's everyone that wanted to speak. And with that being said, let's go ahead and proceed. And next we have on the agenda, item 6 is minutes. Commissioners?
There's no minutes, Madam Chair.
Okay, it's on here. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Which is why I think Commissioner Brush said the numbers might be off. But moving on to the presentation, and I did, before we move on, I did want to thank everyone who did make their comments. Wanted to say that. But moving on, presentations is Taos Region Clean Energy Transportation and Recreation Corridor. And I believe we've got with us today Mr. Norton, who will be presenting.
Yes, hi, thank you, Commission, and thank you to the community. My name is Dave Norton, I'm the CEO of Taos Ski Valley. We'd like to thank you all for the comments, and we'd like to withdraw our request for a letter of support at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Commissioners, since there is a request, or the request has been pulled, is there a motion to to end the meeting, or to table the, and I guess, Mr. Adamio, I'm going to ask you what would be the appropriate at this point. This is new to me.
Okay, we're on item 8, presentations. And just to be clear, Mr. Norton, do you want to present on what the project is proposed to be, what was submitted to the state? What you're asking for is under new business, not for the county to provide any letters of support. I just want to ask if you want to do a presentation on the proposed project.
Thank you. No, we see no need to present at this time. But again, we thank you all for your comments and for your time this morning.
So Mr. Jaramillo, obviously, Mr. Norton has clarified that. And so no presentation, no letter of support. Please, Mr. Jaramillo.
So then, Madam Chair, I recommend moving to new business item 8, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding the letters of support for Taos Region Clean Energy Transportation Recreation Corridor. And there you could table
Understand. Thank you for that clarification. So we are now going into new business, and the new business is A, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding a letter of support for Taos Region Clean Energy, Transportation, and Recreation Portal. Commissioners, I would like to go ahead and start by making a motion to table at this time, based on a couple of things. One, we need some further discussion clearly, and also Mr. Norton has opted to not do the presentation and is no longer asking for our letter of support. That's my motion to table. Is there a second?
I will second.
Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Commissioner Penrose?
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. Madam Chair. Can you hear me? No?
Madam Chair, discussion? Commissioner Gallegos?
I did have discussion. Since a motion and a second have been made with the discussion, my question for you, Madam Chair, is with the presentation that's been provided, when would it be appropriate for the commissioners to either make some recommendations or some questions for Mr. Norton in regards to the presentation?
And Commissioner Gallegos, it was my hope today we might hear from Mr. Norton and be able to, ask some questions and see if there was additional questions. But at this point, I do not know if Mr. Norton, and I guess we can ask him, but if the commission wishes to ask Mr. Norton to come back and maybe answer with some of these questions that have been asked of us today, or of Taos Ski Valley, if he'd be willing to present, I'd say I'm open to, if other commissioners are, to another meeting with some of these questions answered. I hope that answers your question, but that is my recommendation.
Okay, it will. It will, Madam Chair. As listening to all the comments, I do have a couple of questions that would probably be, I thought we'd probably be able to ask those today, so that the presentation Mr. Norton can go ahead and regroup, answer those questions like you mentioned, and kind of get it more solidified before this governing body decides to write letters of support or whatever. But if we go ahead and move this down the road and be tabled for the next meeting, well, then I guess we could just hold our questions for then. I'm fine with that.
Thank you. So any more further discussion before we call for the vote? Seeing none, once again, there is a motion on the floor to table and a second. Madam Clerk, please call for the vote.
Commissioner Gallegos?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush? Chair Hill?
Yes. Okay, and I believe we are now ready to move on to announcements. And Vice Chair Brush, my apologies.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted everyone who's still on the call to be aware that our Office of Emergency Management is holding an event today and tomorrow in front of the county buildings from 11 to 2, distributing COVID test kits while supplies last. So please spread the word, help us all be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, any other announcements? Is that it in regards to the topic, the COVID? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I will second that. And Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Gagos,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Hill.
Yes. And thank you all for attending. Have a good rest of your day.
This conference is no longer.